inviting me. First of all, yeah, appreciate being here, and I'm glad to just be here at one of these gatherings. Yeah, I've been super busy with a current role I'm occupying, so I haven't been able to do as much. And yeah, I think as we were talking about it, we started the conversation, because have been really interested, Unai, in this framework. Um, and yeah, I can. So it sounds like, oh, okay, Chuck's here.
Oh, cool. Chuck's here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Leanne.
Welcome.
Hi. So my thought was to give just a little introduction to commitment pooling. As much as folks want, I really didn't think that it's necessary for me to talk to sort of talk a lot about it, and rather have a discussion and see what folks are really want to talk about. So I can give just a little intro to it, and I can share just the Sarafu network briefly, the app, and then yeah, my thought was to kind of open it up to more of a discussion based on what people are interested in talking about. And as I was saying, Unai, what was interested in my when we were talking, my impression was that you're interested in saying how could it be possible, not only to understand what this is, but also to try and facilitate this model with a group. So yeah, definitely have some thoughts on that. Yeah, so I'll just start out. My name is Rob Hurwich, and yeah, Unai and I met because I started this community and an economic kind of model for value exchange and resource sharing. It was called for professionals and entrepreneurs and freelancers. It was called Holistic Systems Cooperative, and basically it was a virtual community, and we tried to incorporate commitment pooling and a couple other models, needs and offers, and contribution accounting. And that went for like about 4 years, and we had a nice member portal, and people really loved it. It didn't catch enough traction to kind of keep going, so that's dissolved. But commitment pooling, yeah, I really fell in love with. I read this big this article that Will wrote, and yeah, I just love it. I feel like it has such tremendous transformative potential. And so just really briefly, like commitment pooling here, I'll share my screen just so it'll be more interesting than my face. This is just a slide deck that Will has. Speaking of that, one of the things to say, like, I'm not an official representative of grassroots economics. I am in touch with Will, and have helped out with the UX and UI design for the new app, and I'm continuing to help out with the design on the Sarafu app and the code base. And I did attempt to build my own commitment pooling app, which was very interesting because one of the things I love about commitment pooling is that it's like, I think from a basic standpoint, it's very simple. It's just exchanging with a group of people, like a multilateral exchange, like of our IOUs, our gift cards for our own goods and services. But on the back end, it's pretty complex, I think, to set up, especially when you get into credit routing and credit clearing and all of that. Probably Chuck could speak to that. And so I'm really happy now to just be helping out with Sarafu and not trying to like build it all on my own. So that's how I came here. And basically, so commitment pooling, just it's a protocol based on ancient practices and traditions of resource coordination. and that enables communities to create and share value through pooled commitments. So, essentially, like in the basic level, is like you would create a gift card for your own goods or services. So if I sell, if I'm a farmer and have produce, I create a gift card for, my carrots or my tomatoes, and then I'm putting that in a shared pool with other people's gift cards. Um, and essentially, you're creating this shared pool that uh, you know that then everybody who is kind of allowed into that pool can access. And so basically, what that does is then you can exchange these IOUs or these gift cards, and it's a non-monetary exchange of goods and services. Um, and so one thing about this is that um, it's not like like an alternative currency model, in the way that most are, because you know it's not a currency in that it's like a token or a credit or something like that, but it's basically each voucher is backed by a specific promise, to to fulfill these goods and services that you're promising. Um, so yeah, I really like that aspect. Another aspect I like about it is that I think there's a way where it can help kind of solve this cold start problem, which is, if you want to kind of get an uh, complementary currency or community currency going, um, yeah, that you have to, like, everybody has to kind of agree to start using it. But with commitment pooling, that does have to happen in a similar way, but it doesn't require like fiat currency, and it doesn't require just like somebody starting. Basically, it's just if you can seed the pool with a group's promises to fulfill whatever value they have, then yeah, then you already have value there, and then you can start these exchanges, these swaps. Um, so yeah, there's a kind of a couple ways I think of getting started, right? I mean, I think for the most part, you start with like a group of people who already know each other. I think um, that's has seemed to be the most effective way. People who know each other, they get together, they have they figure out where where the value intersects, and if there's value that they have for each other, you start from there, and then basically you just kind of go through the mechanics of it, which is everybody puts in their promises to deliver, and this to note that commitment pooling is based on patterns of ancient and indigenous practices. So Will Ruddick is the person who came up with it and synthesized this model. And he was living, in Africa. He's been in Africa, in Kenya, for like 15 years now, and he, saw this, these patterns one was called Mweria, and that's like a rotating labor association, and essentially, that pattern has been repeated all over the world within, ancient and indigenous groups, and yeah, it's pretty simple, right? You have a village, and one person needs help, building their house, and then everybody comes, in the village comes and helps them do that. And so now they're indebted to all those people. And then the next person needs help harvesting, their crops, and then everybody, goes and helps that person. And it basically, goes around. And so this is a way of just taking, that pattern and, allowing it to spread and scale, right? So, um, it rotates. You can see it's just rotating around, rotating labor association. And let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to share. I think we can talk about the difference between this and other alternative economic models and mutual credit models and things like that, but I won't get into that now. The I will say that the other way, here's some, I don't know, some cool pictures of Will in Bhutan, where he went to and introduced commitment pooling there. He did that pretty recently. That I thought that was neat. Yeah, what was I going to say? There's four. The protocol itself. There's four there's four parts to this basic protocol. And if people want to like talk about it more, we can, and I can, share a resource. But it's curation, valuation, limitation, and exchange. And so curation is basically like what's allowed in the pool. So what is of value to the people, who are in this pool, and valuation is basically like how much are we, like kind of the relative value indexing. So how much does this group of people value different things? Like, right now in our society, right, like lawyers have really high value, but if somebody who cares after like elderly people tend to have lower value as far as like the compensation for that. But you can have a pool that flips those. Limitation is that you can't have everybody just putting in 10 million promises, right? You have to, it's like essentially commitment pooling is also like a credit network. So that's another way to think about it. There's also, I don't know, there's a lot of ways to think about it. There's different mental models and different ways of explaining it. And I've found over time some work better for some people and some work better than others. So limitation is just making sure that, that the sort of credit stays within a reasonable range. And then exchange is the swapping back and forth. Yeah. And so I'll stop and I'll pause there. The other thing that I can do is walk us through really quickly the actual app Sarafu network and how that works. But I'm gonna pause here and see if anybody has anything to share or what where we would like to head the conversation.
Rob, I'd like to ask about the valuation component when you were making those 4 categories. So here's, like, I would probably say, in my mind, when you think of the functions of money, which is unit of account, medium of exchange, store of value, and standard of value, that last one is often dropped, but it's one that Jevons had in his, that back in the late 1800s. The standard of value for Will's system would be Kenyan shillings, correct?
No, the unit of account or unit of measurement is really anything that the group chooses for it to be. What Will has suggested is that basically like whatever the unit of currency of that like country is, that's the easiest way to get things started.
And it is the way that they do it in Africa. I mean, everyone's referencing shillings.
Everyone's
That's
referencing
their standard.
Right. That's the standard in Kenya. And then in Ukraine, it's their currency, and
Some
in the
other
US,
national currency. Yeah.
yeah, kind of the national
Yeah,
currency. Yeah.
exactly. So now when you go to valuation and people are putting in, like you gave the example of old age care or something, right?
Mhm.
They're valuing that in shillings, aren't they? Relative to or what is the clearing mechanism? Does the price of care go up if there's little supply, or if there's a lot of demand, or does it change relative? Does the market price, the fiat market price, right? It
That's
heavily influences the decision that people want to exchange their vouchers for, no?
Yeah. So it's all really based on the pool itself or the pool curators. So
Mm.
there's a lot of different
Comes down to
variables
the governance.
that can go into it. I mean, obviously, like market value is, can be a big one, right? And there's always an aspect there. But I don't know. In a list, at some point, I listed out like 14 different variables for how you can evaluate things. And the beauty of it is it's really based on the curators, the pool, the community itself, because the in the app there's an exchange rate, and so how the valuation happens is it's all just like relative value indexing. So at its most basic, every voucher is just one-to-one exchange. And so if if I'm and so basically, like, for an example, if a lawyer comes in and the lawyers, they're saying their voucher is, one one voucher is, for 1 hour of services, and their services, they value that at $500 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And a care worker comes in and their voucher is for an hour of services, and they value it at $50 an hour. The
Mm-hmm.
pool can then say, actually, we're going to make the care workers exchange rate like double, 2 times what the lawyer's exchange rate is,
Meaning
or
it becomes $100 an hour?
yeah, relative, exactly. If it becomes relatively, so if that was going to happen, then it would become $100 an hour, and the lawyers would be 250 for their
Or
voucher.
still 500, but the others would be 100. No?
Um, it's yeah, it's basically, so it's like
How
this,
does that
the
work?
way.
Like, how do they make that? Because that's how you normally do clear the, have clearing. You adjust the price, or you could adjust quantity. But you're saying, so he's got an algorithm that is, or because I thought maybe the vouchers were just sitting there waiting for some governance. So I don't know, something else to happen. So, but is there some
Yeah,
automated change
um,
in valuation or something?
yeah.
Or how does it work?
Within the pool, let me see if I can, if it's up here, if I can bring it in in the app. Oh yeah, okay. Here, let me show you in the, like, in the app, and that might help. Let me share my screen. Um, can you see the app?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So it's actually it's fairly simple. Like, it's basically, you have, I mean, the way that I've done it is, or think about it, is like there's this base anchor, right? So something is always like something is always $1, and so, and then everything gets the exchange rate, or gets value indexed, based on that. So, like what you can see in the app, right, is that is the exchange rate. So rather than everything being, $1 to $1 to $1, it's easiest if everything kind of is in the same increments, like dollar increments. So not this $100, but if you do that, then you can see that this Baba is $1, and the exchange rate is 1. And then this alignment services, the exchange rate is 1.5. So it just basically means that within this pool, if you want to acquire, um, these, like, these vouchers, that
Hmm.
it's just going to be, it's always going to be more, like $1.50, per voucher, rather than $1 a voucher. But in another pool, that might be different. It might be opposite. Does that help?
It does. So in this pool, did Rob set 150, or did some algorithm set it?
No, me, Rob, the pool steward, said it. So you
You
can
the
see I have,
Oh, sorry, you're the so the steward sets it, not the individual. Is that right?
no, not the individual. So the individual sets, every individual sets the price of um their own vouchers.
Yeah.
Um, but then when they come into the pool, then the stewards, or the curators, then
Yeah.
have the ability to adjust that price.
Okay, so then in a sense, you might end up with in terms of the barter, you might end up with a worse exchange rate than what you had hoped for, but is that right?
Yeah, if yeah, depending on the pool, right? And
Yeah,
that really is the valuation part. You might
right.
end up with a worse exchange rate than you think, but that's because it's the valuation is like community based rather than simply market based.
Or it's
And
within this
so,
market, like this small market, you're clearing supply and demand
yeah,
in this market.
right. Yeah, exactly. Kind of a supply and demand of this market. And what does this market supply? Yeah, demand. What is it? What do they value? Right. And that can change, right? It can be,
And do you
things,
have to accept it?
seasonally.
Like
What's that?
if do you have to accept? Like once you find out, "Oh, I thought it was gonna be, you know, 1 and now it's 1.5 or something."
Mhm.
Um, can you withdraw your voucher or do you have to?
Absolutely. At any time. I mean, and that's what how you would handle it.
Right.
If you don't feel like you like their valuation, then you just pull your
Mhm.
voucher out and your
Yeah,
voucher, it just goes back into your wallet.
right.
And then so
So it's always a
and
fluid, it's
yeah,
a real person that's doing this. It's not an algorithm.
it's not an algorithm. I suppose a pool could create an algorithm to do
Yeah,
it,
you
but
could have yeah, you could, but
and
generally
that's actually what
speaking.
I did. That's what I did in a sense. I don't know as an algorithm, but I put all these. What are the different factors,
Mhm.
right? And the community can vote on that. But
Yeah.
it's not at its root. No, it's not an algorithm. It's human decided. I mean, that's different than just like the straight credit routing, which is like the credit clearing. And I know that there's routing and algorithms, but that doesn't have
Mm.
anything to do with valuation. That's just how to make do the multilateral credit clearing.
Okay, just one more question. So you said that people vote on that? Like, so can you just like be really specific about how that happens? So I'm hearing that the steward maybe nominates some barter clearing solution given the pool at some timestamp, and then people vote on it? Or can you just
Sure. I mean, the answer is it's really based on it can happen in different multiple different ways. I mean, I can give concrete examples.
Mhm,
Um, so a pool can be like it can just be managed and stewarded by one person, right? So like one person could be kind of like this market maker, right? So I could go around and I could get vouchers from a bunch of different people, and put them in my pool because I think they have value, right? So like a if you're like a wine connoisseur, right? I can just go around and acquire vouchers from a bunch of different wineries, and then I'm making the valuation, and then I'm trying to get people to come into my pool, and and exchange. Um, that's one way. Another way is it is this kind of community pool based, and really the what you're speaking to is I think like the governance. Right, so each pool does need kind of agreements, like governance agreements. How who does decide, right? And so I think something like a story that Will told. I'm just trying to like relay this. But he talks about like what that looks like, um, in Kenya, in the like kind of the village that he's in, right? So there's the people who are kind of like the who are the stewards, right? And they come together, and it's just a group of the village leaders, and they come together, whatever, every month, and they have a fire, and they have a, like they meet, and so it's kind of like a council. So
mm,
you could have, right? So a council could decide, or um, the community can just say, hey, we're just gonna like we're gonna decide that these three people are the community stewards, right? And we're giving them a job, and it's just their job to like maintain the pool. So it really decides on it is decided by whatever the group wants.
thanks. I'll let someone else ask questions and then I'll come back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
So,
welcome. I'm just yeah. I don't claim to have all the answers, but um, I yeah.
so I have a question. I and I think that I I I have this feeling that is very familiar to me, having composed some currency systems myself,
Hmm.
and designed them so that they're very flexible and they could be used in different ways. And then uh, recognizing uh, that you need to get specific and not just say, well, you could do A or you could do B. All right. I think that there's a real need in my mind to make the commitment pooling more concrete. Because
Mm.
I've seen the slide sets and I've read some of the white papers and so on. Uh, and I recognize that in principle it could be done a lot of different ways, but I'd like to hear some specific ways that it's been done. For example, uh, it sounds like uh, the system that you implemented in your cooperative was pretty much entirely based on services. Is that right? There weren't too many tangible goods being swapped
That's
around.
yeah, that's
Uh,
right.
and yet, in a lot of the village context, by at least uh, in hand waving form, my people will say, well, you're getting bread, you're getting tomatoes, you're getting rice, physical, uh, tangible things. Uh, and so if so there's a couple of questions that come up for me when you start saying, okay, let's get concrete about uh, goods, tangible goods. Say, okay, so say I'm a baker, right?
Mhm.
And I could put in uh, a voucher. Uh, in theory, I could put in a voucher that's denominated. I'm not sure denominate's the right word, but it's a commitment to deliver, uh, you know, one loaf of sourdough bread. Okay, uh, and uh, and then when someone redeems that voucher, it's clear what the commitment is for, right?
Right.
On the other hand, I had the impression that the way it tended to be implemented was the baker gives a voucher for 10 Kenyan shillings worth of baked goods. All right.
Mhm.
In which case, when you redeem that voucher, it will have different value at different times, depending on uh, the the market price for different types of goods, baked goods, uh,
Mhm.
and uh, uh, and it it's much more flexible because if the baker has 30 different baked good products he sells or makes, right, it seems really cumbersome to have 30 different kinds of vouchers. On the other hand, I
Mhm.
think that Will's goal was to make the overhead of creating vouchers so low that you could create 30 different types of vouchers for 30 different things you're doing. Uh, so
But Chuck, I think in most cases they're still gonna have like a $10 or shilling voucher at the baker.
I I certainly heard that that's a way it's done. Certainly some of Will's writings, and now I think I'm going back maybe 2 years, so things have changed, right? But
Yeah.
he was really eager to experiment with the tangible goods, with the voucher is backed by some genuine quantity of some genuine product.
Yeah,
right?
like eggs.
And
Yeah.
like eggs
Mhm.
or water or whatever. I remember seeing a
Mhm.
table of a bunch of tangible
He was,
products.
yeah, he was like using that as the unit of account,
I but if you're
but it never
using,
happened.
well, maybe Rob knows. Uh, I mean, this is one of the ways that on paper this is a way that you could do it, right?
Mhm.
But if you do it, if you like, Leanne, we were having a conversation a few weeks ago about compost vouchers, right? And uh,
Yes,
you you could have a currency that was backed by 1 unit of currency is worth a,
one
uh,
bucket of
50 kilos of
compost.
compost or something, right?
Yes,
Which is the sort of model that I'm talking about here, right? It doesn't matter what the price of compost is. That voucher is uh, is good for 1 bucketful. Uh, but if you start with vouchers that are based on actual tangible products, or even an actual 1 hour of service or something like that, uh, why then you haven't addressed the pricing yet, the exchange rate, right? If everyone
Mhm.
denominates their vouchers in the same unit of value,
standard, standard.
in
Yeah,
Kenyan
okay, yeah.
shillings,
Mhm.
or uh, why then the pricing is already defined when you issue the voucher, right?
Yes,
Uh,
but Rob was just showing us
although
how.
what I was listening to Rob say a few minutes ago was,
Yeah,
well, there's sort of a way where the baker could say, I'm writing a voucher for $5 of baked goods, and it goes into the pool, and the curator says, well, uh, that's worth $3 in this pool,
yeah,
right? Is that what
Mhm.
you're saying? That
Yeah,
that even though the voucher says it's good for $5 worth of goods, why when it's residing as part of the pool system, why uh, its its exchange value is different from its redemption value, and that's
right.
that's a feature that allows some uh, sort of system management. Uh,
or clearing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to say, like, Chuck, it's such a great question, Chuck. This is one that I've been pondering a lot, a lot recently. I think yeah, it's a really great question. I think that what I have seen is that more and more, trying to make things simple, that like been going more towards just uh, the way of saying this is a voucher for $10 worth of whatever goods or services I have. Um, and I think because it's such a new paradigm, I think that it is probably best, or this is how it's been going, is to more and more try and standardize it, even though that's not necessary, but to say like, hey, if everybody has puts makes their voucher value for $10 worth of their goods and services, and then you just start at this baseline of everything is 1-to-1 ratio, then that's gonna just make it more simple to start with, and then you start to find hope. Like there's probably will come up these scenarios where you'd say, oh, actually we do want to value this more, value this less, um,
and
but
that's where
not as a
that's
starting
where
point.
the pooling, the voucher pooling, becomes a more powerful system than local currency. Because if just everyone in the community gets together and says, we're going to issue interchangeable vouchers that are worth $1 worth of my services or goods, right? Well, that's a currency, right?
Mhm.
It's if the baseline behavior is they all exchange 1 for 1, and they're why then you don't have the curation function anymore. It's just
No, you
everyone
do
has agreed.
because Chuck, that's not right. You still,
accept
even if you,
the mall voucher as at face value.
but Chuck,
Well,
if you price everything at 1 to 1, that doesn't mean you're going to have supply equal to demand. And the commitment pool is trying to emphasize that we're going to clear, well, we're either going to clear or we have vouchers left in the pool. But we're not going to um, not clear through a currency, through a money, because that's how you normally would clear. You would have people accepting a currency instead of a voucher.
mhm.
Is that
Right.
Yeah,
right,
You would
Rob?
and
have.
we remember
I
that
think that there's
each
a.
voucher is, yeah.
I think there's an example of sort of a middle step uh, of the idea of a mall voucher. You can imagine there's 30 different stores in the mall, and each of them issues a voucher, a promotional voucher. It's good for $5 off a hamburger, or it's good for $5 off a, clothing purchase, or whatever, right? Uh, and and then they can migrate and say, okay, uh, let's let's make a uniform system where we can all issue vouchers and we all accept each other's vouchers, right? So then, in order to get $5 off a hamburger, you don't need a hamburger voucher. You can use uh, a voucher from anybody in the mall, right? And that starts, I think maybe that's the key behavior pattern difference, that if you are providing goods in exchange for a voucher that you didn't issue, well, then you're starting to use it as currency, right?
Right.
And that
Yeah, I
is
think you're hitting on
something
it.
that, and that's what Will really wants to move away from, right? He wants to keep that you don't actually, uh, if I have uh, if I have a jitney voucher and I want to buy some bread, right? Uh, what I should do is uh, put the jitney voucher into the pool, trade it
Mhm.
for a bread voucher, and then uh, uh, get the bread from the baker. Now, it would be it would be a similar function if the baker looks at your jitney voucher and says, "Well, I know I can cash this in, so I'll give you bread for the jitney voucher, right? And then I'll handle the pool transaction, right?"
Mhm.
But that changes uh, the feeling of the transaction, right? Because it detaches the voucher exchange the uh, from the voucher redemption. Uh, and
Mhm.
I have a sense that Will didn't like what happens when vouchers get passed around uh, as medium of exchange. He doesn't want a medium of exchange, right? That goes in a direction that he doesn't want to support. He wants uh, a locus of exchange in the pool mechanism, and the vouchers being uh, redeemed functionally, uh, as that's how value uh, gets converted from one medium into another. So
Mhm.
that there's a whole range of questions around that, about, like, concretely, in real villages or real communities that have implemented the system, what have they found it works? Are they denominating things in fiat currency? Uh, are they maintaining a different equivalent fiat price within the pool and if it's denominated at $5, do they do that? Do they say, okay, we've made a governance decision that you can get $5 of baked goods for $3 now?
Mhm.
And what does the baker think about that? Because he may still be paying $4 for the flour. Uh, uh, and
Right. Yeah. I mean,
but
these are.
what I wanted to just put a stake in the ground here is that there's a whole nother area that I'm very interested in, and I don't know if you have any insights into, which is that Will has put forward that these uh, these commitment pools, by means of some sort of overlapping mechanism, can scale on a network basis, so that uh, I mean, he draws pictures where there's, say, 50 or 100 of these commitment pools, and you can make a transaction exchanging value. Uh, so instead of being 10 or 15 people within a tight trust network, uh,
Mhm.
in the Moria sort of style, why somehow he says these can get effectively networked into thousands of people. And there's 30,000 people on Sarafu. I don't know if they're
Right.
all using this model, but anyhow, so it really becomes a way to support uh, foreign trade, if you will, on this locally scale. And I never got clear of what he's trying to describe in that mechanism. And I'm wondering if you've ever participated in a system that did that, or were close enough to understand how it was working.
Yeah. Yeah. But thank you for bringing that in. I mean, I think that's kind of the last, the level, of this. I mean, if you talk about it right in the base as a pool, but yeah, from my understanding and everything I've read, that's always been a part of the system, and it's been really, that I think that's what makes it, has the real massive transformational potential, is that all of these pools can interexchange with each other, because then you can really create like a critical mass of value. So that way, when anybody is joining in any pool, right, they're accessing this larger network of value.
Yeah,
Um,
so I
and
understand
that's
that in
really,
sort of a white paper sense, but is it actually ever been implemented? Does it?
well, it is. I mean, it's literally, that is what that is on the app. So if, um, I mean, this is like, if you look at the app, right? These are all the different pools. And so each one of these pools is their own pool, their own entity, but they're all exchanging with each other, right? So that's why I have, let me make sure. Yeah, so I have credit here in this Kenya Rolla pool. I have right now 2.33 Kenyan shillings of credit. And that's because I own some voucher that happens to be in this pool. So, that as long as I own a voucher, that's in another pool, or one of my vouchers is in another pool, then I can exchange it, in any pool. So really, that's, when you look at the map, all of these pools are interchanging value with each other.
But the interchange didn't necessarily occur. It's just that you, in a sense, forward sold your service. Presume it's a service you're selling,
Hmm.
and you forward sold it in the sense that you sold it to the pool, but no one in the pool has actually bought it. So you have an outstanding promise and a credit on your side. And that's not in Sarafu, that's in shillings. It's not denominated in Sarafu.
Well, so Sarafu is just the name of the app.
It
So
used to be the sort of the grassroots economics used to issue their own currency was kind of a little bit like a clearing currency. But yeah, okay, so yeah, he's gone
Ah,
entirely off that, right? So it's just in shillings.
yeah,
Everything is just in
yeah, he's
shillings.
got absolutely.
That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
yeah, I
But
don't think that there's any. Yeah, exactly.
when you have your service there in that pool, are you saying that at some point someone's going to come back to you and say, "Oh, someone wants this, but only for half the price"?
Um, no, because my, I mean, my valuation is, like it happens from the pool standpoint, not from every individual user.
Mhm.
So, right, so I can always see like what my what what my voucher is, the exchange rate of it.
Oh, okay. So
So
it's
when I
changing?
well, it could, and that's an interesting point. When do like the voucher owner probably needs to get notified when their valuation changes. But for the most part, I think now practically, like these exchange rates aren't changing, often.
Yeah, because I
So
think
so it isn't. So
everyone's
the valuation
has
isn't on an individual one-to-one basis.
but it can
So
change. You're saying it can change.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the protocol is that any voucher in the pool, the exchange rate can be changed by by
By
the
a
whoever the
DAO,
pool
by a
stewards are.
governance, like a vote or something.
Yeah,
And
by a
yeah, and
governance sometimes.
it can be confusing because the I think you're saying that it certainly is can happen and it is probably somewhat normal for someone to issue a voucher and say this is worth uh, 10 Kenyan shillings market value of my tomatoes, something like that, right?
Right.
And the the curator or the governance process can say that 10 shilling tomato voucher is in our pool and we have decided that it's actually worth 20 shillings. You'll have to give, if you want to get that 10 shilling tomato voucher out, you'll have to put in uh, something that's nominally 20 shillings worth.
hmm
Uh, is that so? So there's sort of a double pricing system.
is
And
there an order
what
book where people are saying, "Yeah, I'll take the tomatoes for 5 shillings," and someone else is 6, and someone else is 7? Is there some sort of order book like that? Or it's just the steward and
I've
getting
never.
this sort of text messages saying, "I'd get it if only it was half the price."
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I mean, my understanding is that it's really more, happening on the pool level. So for, like a village or a community.
They meet up,
uh,
you're saying? It's more like a meetup.
yeah, more like a meetup, more like
Yeah.
who, the it's I mean, really that's just one, like a term that I use to think about it, right? Is just like it's community-based pricing, um, rather than like pure market-based pricing. And so
But
it's really
obviously
just like
you can't.
people in the community get to decide like what it is that
Yeah.
they value and how they value different goods
But
and
you can't
services.
turn up, right? You can't turn up because you're like if in these African communities where you said you're right, you can't actually physically turn up, or do you turn up like on Zoom or something?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I could if my voucher is in there, um,
Mhm.
as long as I mean, I have to, if it's for goods, if it's for a service, a virtual service, then if my voucher's in there, then somebody can redeem it like anybody else. Now, if I have a I mean, we're getting into, these are interesting questions. If I have a good, a tangible good, and it ends up in a pool in Africa, what do we do? So I think some of this, what the most interesting thing for me is just like, and what I'd really love to do, and uh, yeah, is to try and implement this and like pressure test all of these things because it's interesting,
Mm.
isn't it? There's a lot of different little scenarios that can happen within the protocol, and
I just
yeah,
ask one more question because I know we're at time, and I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
the access to the swap pool, is there access to like foreign aid that's in US dollars or some stable coin? Do all these pools have access to an external financing option?
um, well, one thing to say, which I didn't mention, is that like actual cash, so like stable coin can go into any pool, and that's really kind of a part of it. So it isn't meant to. It's really meant, to be able to incorporate in like some, like cash and some of this, to help seed the pools. So it's not
Yeah, I think I'd heard a
Help steer the
hybrid.
story.
market.
I'd heard a story that says, so you want to start a pool, and you get a dozen people together who are interested in participating, uh, and you ask them to create vouchers and donate them to the pool, right?
Right.
And that can be
Mhm.
kind of a hard sell. And so I think that Will had said, well, what's an easier sell is you get some sort of philanthropic person to donate $100 into the pool, and then people can sell uh, their commitments into the pool in exchange for fiat currency, and that's a way to get it started. Now, I don't know if that's something that he just tried it once, or if that's a pattern that seems to be.
He's he has always had that sort of design in all of his different versions. So it's
I,
a very important part.
let's
Yeah,
can,
I think the more
sorry.
it's kind of like yeah. Sometimes he talks about it like this. It's like methadone. Like um, our current economic system. Is like we're on heroin or something. And so how do we, like one way to get off of that is like through this transition. And so if you can like seed money out of the current economy into this kind of economic exchange, then it can then help to boost the new one, so that way it becomes more stable.
Rob, there was a question before also by Rather Mercurial. I don't know if you can see it in the chat.
Well, there was one. I was actually just responding now. Is it the one about the land, the value sources?
Yes, exactly.
Um, yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if there's any instances of that. I think in my sort of mind, uh, I think that would be a really great goal, and I wonder if that's something that could kind of be this next level. If there's enough pools or value being exchanged in a regional or locality, could then yeah like you say land and facilities start to become part of what's available. I think that would be awesome, and I think it's possible, but I don't know any instances of it right now. Will may.
As I was curious because I'm working on a project where we'll be implementing one of Bread's solidarity funds. It's on Stellar in a community in Somaliland to send them kind of a renewable source of funding. And they also just acquired some land, sports facility, specifically a women's sports facility, which hasn't existed before in Somaliland. I've been kind of curious about commitment pools as ways to sort of like integrate the subtle value flows that exist. Specifically, this is a women's project in Somaliland there. And all the subtle value flows that go into it that are kind of missed in sort of funding streams and impact reporting, things like the child care, people using their house for a monthly meeting and, making, things like that. If we have this source of funding, what are some ways that we can kind of reward and sustain those more care economy value flows around project, but in a way that's not that's like supporting a commitment, some other sustainable or circular form than just sending people cash, which is great. It's important they can get. I would rather that not be the default, especially because off ramping is just super hard. Like it's not really that easy to do in Somaliland for a variety of reasons. Most people wouldn't expect outside.
Sorry, you broke up. You said something was really hard. I didn't hear that.
The
Oh,
last
it's
thing.
go ahead, and
No, go.
it's really hard to move funds in and out of Somaliland, or Somalia, but it's just
Mm,
so happens that a lot of people don't want to meet them where they are, and there's a lot of financial infrastructure. There's a ton of smartphone adoption. They
mm,
have a lot of currency exchange markets. They don't have a whole lot of crypto adoption. They have people who are totally willing to do it, but it's almost exclusively OTC markets, and you're lucky if you can find one. So yeah, it's still early days with crypto off ramps. So if we're sending money
yeah,
in crypto into Somaliland, which like we can send it into the wallets of people in Somaliland very easily, but getting them cash with that money fairly difficult. Putting it into a commitment pool to pour, like you're saying, it's easier to get $100 from someone and get people to buy in. Well, we can send $100 every month or something like that without asking anybody to donate. That part's taken care of, but
yeah,
actually
yeah.
deploying these things is hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I agree. I think, this isn't my area of expertise, but there is, and you can look on Sarafu, like I pulled it up here. There's a lot of pools that are actually, like refugee camps that are exchanging in this way. Um, so that might be something just interesting to go to Sarafu and check out. And, there is a feature that's called like reports. And so, basically the reports is basically like a record of what you have done. So if a voucher is a promise to fulfill in the future, the like a report is basically your receipt for work that's been done. So that's one way where people can make reports on things that they've done, and then if there is money that's flowing into the pool, that's a way that they can receive compensation, um, for what they've done, which usually they wouldn't, and start an economy that way. So that's one idea. Yeah, I think it's really
Super cool,
interesting.
actually. Like I didn't
Yeah.
think about the refugee camps because there's a lot of people from Somaliland in those refugee camps in Kenya. So having commitment
Oh yeah.
pool there in Somaliland could, Sarafu could serve as a bridge context where we have an active, commitment pool we can, keep active by dripping funds in that people can, claim for their commitments. And, if
Hmm.
there's something else like, people using a sports complex and maintaining it, and that kind of stuff that we're really focused on, those those tokens from those pools could be transferable, right? And a lot of people are already sending money in and out of those refugee camps. That's where their families are. There's existing connections. Actually, we know West, a community member here, knows some of the money movers he's in Kenya, who move money to Somaliland. He's part of the Communist Party of Kenya, and they help a lot with a long history of supporting that, at least of the Somaliland independence. It's interesting how, maybe that could make those social connections a little bit easier to bridge, at least when it comes to moving, small amounts of money where they need to go, or not necessarily money, but using the money in the system as a catalyst to encourage people to move ad hoc whatever forms of value they can.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what, yeah, there's at least several that I've seen. I mean, here's one. This is a refugee center in Garissa County, and yeah, there's there right. I see less sort of the offers or there, and like a lot of these reports. So these kind of certificates, right? And then people are right. That's and you can even see I'm not exactly sure how it works, but there's like there's a tag here that says pending, approved. So there might be ways to certify these, and then right, and then if people are able to then access money, but then it also can spur this this kind of local exchange.
So, Rob, so there's lots of offers, but there's no demands. You don't have a list of wants.
Oh, sorry, a list of what I didn't hear that.
Of wants, of
Oh,
bids.
well, yeah, that's something we were talking about as a like a new feature that we were talking about when we were you know like designing the app, the not yet being built app, was to have everybody be able to like kind of have a wants list. And we're talking about it kind of in their in your wallet. Um, there's a way where it's interesting. There's a way where each pool sort of as its own acts a little bit like offers and wants, because whatever is in the pool is what you accept. Or so I could actually, if I want a voucher for chocolate chip cookies, um, I could I could give credit to a chocolate chip cookie, the voucher into my pool. And that doesn't necessarily mean that voucher is in the pool, but I go to the chocolate chip cookie maker and I say, hey, I'm going to give you credit in my pool. And if you put vouchers into my pool, then that means you can take out anything you want. So that is a little
Part
bit
of the
interesting.
curation process of who you invite in. You wanna make sure somebody wants chocolate chip cookies. If you invite a chocolate chip cookie supplier.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If you don't think anybody, in the network, doesn't have to be even in your pool, but if you don't think anybody in the network wants chocolate chip cookies, then yeah, then you're extending credit. You're basically giving a loan to a line of credit to the chocolate chip cookie maker, and you don't think anybody will will take that. That's probably not a good idea. But if you
But
think
isn't the
people,
curation at the pool level? Like, how would you know that anyone in the network doesn't want chocolate chip cookies? It seems like you wouldn't know, and so you'd let anyone in. Like, but how do they, yeah, isn't it at the pool level? The
at the pool
curation?
level, yeah, I mean, it's like having any store. How do you know that people want what you're going to sell? You just try and sell what you think is valuable, what you think people want, and then you figure it out by, I guess, and it's also not like these aren't like new products, right? So somebody who's a chocolate chip cookie maker, they might already have customers, and so I think it's the same kind of way.
A lot of these stuff kind of, the commitments themselves emerge It's like the challenge is getting the network to know that the commitments exist, not necessarily surfacing them, because they surface organically in our interactions. So, like who can watch the kids? I can watch the kids next
Mhm.
Saturday. Making that commitment and the value flows around it legible to the system, and like an entity in the system that can interact, right? Like a real event that's recorded and like has transactional value. That's the hard part, without forcing people to use the UI, and like building some sort of like bridge ritual that makes sense with that community and makes sense with the digital system. Like that's the part that's like pretty difficult, that crucial last mile onboarding, at least in my experience.
Mm.
Which, like, people will do it if they have an immediate incentive to do so and it really solves a problem. But it is still a big ask to get someone to do it in general.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. I think that is the thing. Just that last mile adoption. I think beautifully said. And there is an aspect that I feel like there's like a motivation level, like, and I think, look, why is it flourishing in Kenya? Um, because, right, I think there's just less like resources and less access to cash, and so probably that those folks are more open to trying something like this. So I I do think that even though people really liked the idea, I do think, yeah, adoption can be difficult. Um, and it's also something I feel like I want to keep working on this, because the more the more cash is not available, the more people will be motivated to use this. And so, if there's going to be economic collapse on the horizon, which seems likely, then I'd love to try and get ahead of it.
So Rob, you haven't or how far have you got in doing it in your community, or where are you at there?
The community has dissolved. Here, let me see, if I haven't gone to the app in a while. So, um, I can show you.
Yeah, you were
Let's see.
talking about it before. So you were saying that we had a commitment pool before, effectively. Is that what you're saying? Or was it on Will's
Yeah,
app?
I had here. Let me pull it up. Um, I'm just pulling it up now. I made like my own app. So there, I think that Sarafu has progressed a lot, but when I was doing this, when I was kind of trying to get this together before, that adoption, you know, uh, that we are just talking about is, I think is real. It's fairly challenging. So I just didn't feel like people were going to jump on and use blockchain wallets in this community, and so I tried to make something more simple. Let me see. Am I sharing my
Did you
screen?
create a community currency, like a mutual credit or
No, we
something,
just
or
created.
no?
I mean, this is just an app I made with a no code
Mm-hmm.
builder, just to I didn't custom code it. I'm not like Chuck. Um, and this is like this was like the kind of version of commitment pooling. And so these were people, and here's their vouchers, and I can claim somebody's voucher, and it didn't really even get exactly to the point where it was like set up properly on the back end, like really commitment pooling. But what we did is we launched this, and we had people who were interested. Oh, look at that.
Looks good.
Yes.
Who's that guy? Unai. And
How much trade happened? Like, did trade happen? How much?
Yeah, some happened. I mean, a lot more of like kind of the informal needs and offers. So we had like offers and needs, and then we had this kind of community accounting thing, um, and then the vouchers. Uh, so essentially, you know people joined. People were really excited about it, but especially in virtual, like it's just hard to get traction.
Mm.
Um, and of course, I'm not this thing wasn't the first example of something like this not being able to get to this like level of value where people are going to jump in and use it. So I have my next kind of dream is to I there's these farmers markets where I live, and I'm
Mm.
talking to them about it, and I feel like a farmers markets is like a really great place where uh, you could potentially implement commitment pools because everybody knows each other, they're already exchanging with each other. Um, but I haven't been, actually really like successful as of yet.
You know what we're doing, when I say we, well, um, uh, I'm in a group with Chuck actually, called the Regenerative Currency Federation, but I'm also in this other good group called Grow Good, and like
Hmm.
between the two of them, or actually the reason that I have moved away from these market-oriented systems, because I would still call Wills a market-oriented, is that if you start mapping the production networks that you have in an already existing economy, but if you map those production networks and start matching up the needs and wants, it's one way I think to um, I don't know whether you call it seed. It's not seeding it with cash. It's seeding it with knowledge of, oh, that guy usually uses 10 bales of hay. This other, and he needs that to produce X amount of milk, and the baker needs Y amount of milk and flour, and then produces 10 kilos of cookies. And so you have the whole input output matrix of the closed network.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
we're
so like the
doing that
value
with
mapping.
exactly. It's based on value flows, and there's a. Do you know Lynn Foster?
Yeah.
Right. We're working with her.
Oh, cool. And so, I mean, are you working on implementing some kind of, you know, economic exchange system,
We're not there yet.
value exchange?
We feel like the exchange mechanism is it could be Will's commitment pool. It could be someone else can be doing that, right? It could be your pool, anyone's exchange network. It could be Open Food Network is one. It's not blockchain, but it's one that focuses on distribution and exchange. And so we're focusing on the production side. And so we're just looking at the inputs and outputs necessary for production. It's kind of like a what you call a Leontiev um, model of an economy.
Mm.
I would add that where I'm living right now, which is in Costa Rica, why there's an existing project that's considering uh, introducing a local currency, uh, and they have a core sort of farmers market or feria, uh, which is not very big. I mean, it's maybe a dozen or two vendors, uh, and the uh, I think that there's a lot more planning that needs to go into this group, but it's one that could definitely be addressing on the ground some of the uh, considerations that we've been talking about.
Mm.
Yeah, when I encountered this group, and they're talking about local resilience, circularization of the economy, recognition of regenerative agricultural practices and stuff like that. But it's still kind of a mishmash as to how it would actually be implemented in a concrete way to achieve the goals they're talking about.
Mm.
But when I encountered them, they'd already had contact with someone who was proposing a a fairly conventional local currency. They had not been talking about commitment pool voucher implementation. So I don't know, toss that out there. It does. I guess you were sort of asking the question of, are we actually implementing anywhere? And saying, well, we might implement here.
Hmm. Yeah. This is a question I have for folks. What, like, does anybody know if well, it's really like a wish. I don't know if it's out there. I would love like a repository of different, different groups or different projects that are trying or have tried or are successful at implementing, these kinds of exchanges and resource sharing and value exchange, because I wish like it would be so great to be able to like access access a kind of repository of what works, what doesn't, people's lessons learned. Does anybody know if
You
there's
know,
something
there's a
like
journal.
that?
You know the
What's that?
journal? You know the
Like
journal
the complementary
on let
currency?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's a good
Stick it in
idea.
your AI or something
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
ask it to.
Right. And see, now that's a second good idea, because I'm like, why haven't I read all the articles in that? I'm like, oh yeah, because it's, yeah, there's a good amount there. But that's a really great idea. Thanks. And then
uh,
if we could just, yeah,
no, I was just
talk to
wondering
each
if
other.
Armen or
Hmm.
Giorgio, welcome by the
You
way,
should join our group, Rob.
if you have any question or comment.
Thank you. You mean this group, or you're the one that you're
No, sorry.
oh,
I mean, I
The
like this group.
Regenerative Currency Federation has sort of within its scope trying to collect that same sort of knowledge base that you're talking about. I can't say that we've accomplished a whole lot, but I think we perceive the same need. Uh,
mm,
Heck, we should
yeah.
put it in AI. We should just stick the journal into Leo's. Ask Leo to. Oh, Steph. Steph can do that. You know Steph at local scale, Rob?
Yeah, I haven't met him, but I definitely know, who he is and what
He
he's
has
up
his
to.
own AI and does everything. Like, I mean, so
That sounds
Uh,
right.
yeah.
I think, well, I would be leaving Shunis, but I wanted to. I mean, you are free to stay longer, but I wanted to make sure that Armen and Giorgio have the chance to also maybe share thoughts or make questions or whatever. And there is this invitation by Rather Mercurial there, sorry, Armen, about a knowledge commons already going on.
Thank you, Nay. I was just thinking about to ask a couple of questions to Rob.
Perfect.
Um, actually, Rob, as I understand, your solution is working for a already established community, which has a good communication already, and actually, what they like what and the steward is selected among the in that community, as I understand you correctly, and that means that they have a lot of communications behind the platform, so that the mm, price coefficients to voucher like 1 or 1.5 or whatever is already like understood intuitively in that community, and there is no contradiction when someone is bringing to the platform the voucher, and as I understand, it's rare when there was a contradiction with the steward. Yeah, am I correct or not?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just want to name it's definitely not my thing. I've been working, yeah, with commitment pooling and playing with it and
Uh-huh.
collaborating, but it's definitely not mine.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. No, all good. Yeah, I'm just sort of here, just like everybody else, kind of just speaking to it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
um,
okay. I
but with
didn't
that,
catch
yeah,
it.
with that, yeah. I mean, I think that seems like a fair statement from what I've observed. I mean, I haven't been
Mhm.
on the ground in Kenya, so where most of these really active pools are. But yeah, I
Mhm.
think that's the impression that I get is that when pools are started with a group of people, that yeah, that they start from a place of understanding the value that each is sort of offering, and so then there is less contradiction. That's
Yeah, it's
what I've seen.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe this is the most important part of it, because um, when it is put on a public space and anybody can join, it's not clear how these coefficients can be established. It should be negotiated and pre-negotiated in some community and understood before it, and they enter to platform, I think. And then also these peoples closely know each other, and it looks like they can do a favor for one for another if like someone needs more uh, vouchers from a doctor, but he
Mm,
has no vouchers to provide to him, the doctor may did a favor for him actually, as it happens in real life in such kind of communities. Mm.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's yeah, that's the idea. If there's enough like real value there, then hopefully, right, then people like doctors would be willing to put their vouchers in. Um, and I think, I mean, for me, I love the idea, with whether it's commitment pooling or other, or just the model of of networked communities. So I like the
Mhm.
idea that there's lots of small communities where there's trust and they understand what each one values, but then they're also able to then exchange with other communities and then develop that like trust between communities.
Did you observe such exchanges between communities? It is very interesting for me. Maybe close communities can exchange, uh, because I think the commitment this way, commitment pooling is like uh, it has to be have some sort of knowledge in background. It cannot be done just whatever is described in the commitment. The people has to know each other. My feeling is that actually before it could happen.
Hmm. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I think that's seems like that's how it has been for most of the communities and how it has been successful. There's also a way where I wonder if you have enough value that like something I'm thinking about if there's around here there's like there's like 5 or 6 different farmers markets. And so yeah, I guess you're right. I guess it's the same thing. If each farmer's market, they know each other and they trust each other, right? And so if they're
Mhm.
able to then exchange with each other, then other people can come in and not have to. Yeah, I think maybe you're right. I'm talking myself out of what I was saying.
And one question was about the farmers market. You know, uh, it's not only farmers which buy or sell or exchange those goods in the market, and the most of peoples are not farmers who buy from there, right? And there is no commitment actually. They can exchange. Uh, so, like, if someone um, who have work or work is which is not related to farming, they cannot exchange actually those values. Like if someone is a physicist or programmer or any other specialty, they cannot exchange. They cannot give to farmers something which they can exchange by the things they produce. How do you think that will work, the commitment
Um,
pooling?
oh, I think that would work fine. I think that people like goods and services can be exchanged through commitment pooling. I think what I've seen is that helps is that if everything is priced like in a national currency as far as the unit of account, then that makes it a lot easier. So
Yeah,
if I'm a farmer and I say, hey, this is a voucher for $10 worth of my produce, and then I'm a doctor and I say this is a voucher for $10 worth of my services, then that makes it pretty easy to swap.
yeah, but if it but like if someone works in physics and has a voucher for making some experiment in physics, how it can be useful for farmer? How can it be exchanged?
Right, right. It doesn't. Yeah, it's probably not. So like, where's the physics? Where's the physics pool? Like that's where's the physics or the academics pool? So maybe the physics person would exchange with the history person or something. Every
I think
yeah.
that's why Will has that kind of release valve with the Canyon shillings, the bridge on the side, of the commitment pool. Because if you're a farmer and you're holding those computer vouchers, um, and for whatever reason they were allowed in the pool, or maybe it was curated that way, that means that they should get first preference to exit with redemption.
Hmm. Yeah. What is that? I'm not sure. I'm
You
familiar
know, the
with that.
swap pool where he
Yeah.
has the swap pool on this on, if often he has it like first come first serve, but I think he might even give preference to who can have access to that. He still has that, right? The access to stablecoin.
Yeah, you mean in on the platform in the network?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's
yeah.
essentially can be in every
That's
pool.
yeah. So that's the release valve. That's when you have the mismatch.
Mm,
That's the release valve. That's what helps clear the market. And if it's limited to just those mismatches, those things that nobody wants but are valuable, um, he can give that. So therefore, for example, if the first aid comes in and says, "Well, I'll give you 100,000, you know, amount of money," and Will says, "Well, okay, you can give us this money," and maybe they want something in return, and he'll say, "Well, okay, you can. We'll take. We want you to inject that money into the system, but I'm going to allocate in reciprocity. I'm going to allocate a certain basket of goods, and he might want the Red Cross to utilize the computer services or the services that are being injected and somehow got in there, but no one in that community wants them.
mm,
It's one possibility. I mean, that is what the Red Cross does. They go in and they say we are going to allow people to who are holding positions to liquidate. That's what they used to do in when he had the currencies. Now when he has vouchers, you'd think they'd have to liquidate, be able to sell their the the computer guy who came, bought the tomatoes, gave his services, and now that farmer who has those computer, vouchers, if they went and liquidated for dollars, then they're cleared. But you still have you basically have the computer guy, being, I guess, scot free. He got tomatoes in a way, right?
hmm. Yeah,
But he
interesting.
does have that swap pool there for kind of as this release valve for to help equilibrate things. But I don't know how the access to it is. He told me at once it was like it was a bit of first come first serve, but it should be. I'm sure it's based on need and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Kind of had that problem in circles too, where their system sort of tries to automatically clear mutual credit
Mm,
obligations of the people in the group, basically by using demand for liquidity. People want to sell their circles fiat, right? So that creates a demand for the tokenized credit obligations of people in the pool. However, we had to really carefully curate the trust network that we had. Otherwise, if people had like second or third order trust connections and a lot of circles, all of a sudden, all of those people could find a path to our liquidity, and it started to reduce the value of our tokens in general. So, not as big an impact in that scenario because it's just kind of net money, right? But yeah, it's still kind of something that does require acceleration.
I mean, in my mind, that's the reason why Will has gone so against cash. Because for me, I still call this a monetary system, but I know he says, "Well, no, we don't have this token." And the reason he does that is because once you start having a token that people fetishize over and want as liquidity, now you have a prisoner's dilemma and you have a run to the tokens. And he had that in his system over and over again because he had, and it's not to blame him. I thought it was good, the way he handled it, but because it was always relatively a small group of people. But so he always had that access to Kenyan shillings in his models, which gave liquidity and gave that ability to clear. But as soon as people start thinking that that's the purpose rather than reciprocity, then you start people start sort of maneuvering such that they're primarily just trying to liquidate a voucher rather than accept it as real goods and services.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what he has, written, over and over again, and done research and seen. And I think in other examples too, like the Bristol pound, right? Like it's the same thing, same challenge that happened with just a community currency. So yeah, that's one reason why I'm interested in commitment pooling. If if we that can be a workable solution to that issue.
Actually, close social relations can mitigate such issues. It's like a guarantee against that. People don't like behave in a like in a bad way when others know him. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. What do we think?
Yeah, it feels
It's
like
been
some people are leaving. I'm also. It's a bit late for me having dinner, but like
mhm.
Armen is really late for Armen, but he's still around and fresh. It's impressive.
Yeah. Where are you located, Armin?
In Armenia, GMT +4. So it's
Ah, okay. Yeah. So it's getting late there.
it's midnight. I passed midnight.
Yeah. Um, Perfect. Well, should we should we wrap up?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rob. It was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a
Good.
lot,
Yeah.
Rob. Glad you made
Thank
it.
you very much. And it's always good to exchange the experience and what you are looking for. And I'm also looking for that, and happy that you bring some information from first hand. It's
Mhm.
interesting. Mhm.
Yeah. 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 Thank you. Thanks for the discussion, everyone. I know. Yeah. Well, let's. Feel free to reach out anytime, and check out Sarafu Network, and certainly you can go there and create a pool and make vouchers and all of that, and yeah, I guess we're anyone, yeah, report back. And Leanne, yeah, nice to meet you, and I'll check out the websites that you sent. So join RCF. Okay.
Thank you.
Hey,
Yeah, I'll send you an invite.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Please do.
Okay,
Um,
will do. Bye.
yeah.
See
Well, I
you.
appreciate everybody being in this exploration and being on the forefront of societal transformation. God willing.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, bye.
hey,